In 326 BCE, the Macedonian army reached the banks of the Bios River and stopped. After a decade of conquering the known world, the veterans of Alexander the Great simply refused to march further east. Alexander's advance was halted not by a wall, but by intelligence reports. His scouts had brought back descriptions of a powerful, wealthy kingdom waiting in the delta beyond the river, the Empire of Gangaridai. The name Gangaridai refers to the land with the Ganges at its heart, a direct reference to the massive, complex river systems that defined the region's borders. This riverine geography acted as a natural fortification. Before an enemy could even engage in battle, they had to navigate a sprawling, shifting maze of water that favored the defenders. Classical historians like Megasthenes and Ptolemy recorded that Gangaridai was no mere tribal collection, but a highly organized military power. They estimated the kingdom's standing forces at 60,000 infantry and 1,000 horsemen, a scale of professionalized warfare that shocked the Greek commanders. The primary deterrent, however, was the vanguard. 700 war elephants were stationed along the riverways, creating a living wall that the Greeks believed would turn the river into a graveyard for their phalanxes. Confronted with the prospect of fighting through a jungle delta against hundreds of elephants, Alexander's troops staged a massive mutiny. They forced a retreat, leaving Gangaridai's independence intact. By the 8th century, the region had stabilized under the Pala Empire. As trade routes flourished along the stable riverbanks, the surplus wealth that once funded massive border armies began to flow into large-scale spiritual and intellectual centers. The result was Somapur of AKHARA at Paharpur. Stretching across 280 meters, it remains one of the largest single-unit Buddhist monasteries in South Asia, functioning as a primary center for Buddhist thought in the medieval world. The central shrine was built on a precise cruciform plan, rising 21 meters high with terracotta plaques. Surrounding it was a massive monastic courtyard. Exactly 177 cells were built into the outer walls to house monks from across the continent. This shift represented a transformation in how Bengal projected its power. The region's resources were now redirected from the defense of its borders to the construction of architectural hubs for philosophy. For years, the history of Parhapur seemed settled, beginning with its 8th century founding by the Pala kings. But recent excavations have revealed that this site was built over an even older past. In the 1980s, archaeologists dug deep trenches beneath the main temple. They discovered older, thicker brick walls and floor levels that predate the 8th century structure, cutting directly through the established foundations. A copper plate found at the site dates back to 489 AD. It records a land purchase for a Jain monastery, proving that the site was a religious center centuries before the Buddhists arrived. This 1.2-meter bronze Buddha was found buried beneath a secondary floor level. Its surface is severely damaged by fire, suggesting it was hidden there during an 11th century crisis to save it from invaders. Paharpur demonstrates that Bengal's history is physically layered. Each new era built its monuments directly on top of the secrets and foundations of the civilizations that came before. As monuments like Paharpur were eventually abandoned, the historical record of the delta moved away from stone and back into the water. This is the era of the Manasamangal, an epic folk poem centering on a wealthy merchant named Chandraketugarh and his conflict with the gods. The poem details the Saptadinga, a legendary fleet of 7 massive trading vessels used by Sadagar to navigate the coast. These stories served as a cultural archive. The Saptadinga wasn't a mythological invention, but a way for the people of the delta to remember the scale and organization of their maritime trade networks. The poem follows the journey of the heroine, Bela, as she travels on a raft down the river, desperately seeking a way to save her husband's life. Researchers found that the towns, ghats, and river crossings Bela passes align with real-world archaeological sites. These encoded routes provided a geographical guide to the delta's trade connections, reaching as far as Sri Lanka and the coast of Gujarat. Because the rivers of the delta constantly shift and swallow physical landmarks, oral storytelling became the only reliable way to preserve the region's history. These traditions have functioned as a primary historical archive, keeping the memory of ancient ports alive long after the water claimed the stone foundations. From the elephant vanguards of Gangaridai to the buried treasures of Paharpur, The story of Bengal is inseparable from the rivers that define its landscape. For more deep dives into the history and legends of the ancient world, like this video and subscribe to AKHARA Study.